What is happening, baby? Welcome back to the Huddle Chat Sports Show. I am your host, as always, Dallas Clark, also known as Indo is my Nindo. Today, we're going to be going and continuing on the recap and analysis of all 32 NFL teams' drafts this year after the 2023 NFL Draft. Last episode, we went over the Indianapolis Colts. We're going to be sticking with the AFC South, run through the AFC South, and then we're going to take it division by division. Like I said, we're going through all 32 teams in the NFL, recapping and analyzing their draft, and then we're going to be driving into their offseason work as well as we progress on this offseason, move on to our draft day manifestos, and get to your favorite, the fantasy football huddle. Make sure, if you haven't already, drop a follow, drop a subscription, hit that notifications bell so you always know when we're coming out with new content, because as if you don't know, Season 4 has kicked off. Dan, I feel so good to say we're kicking off year 4 and we're coming out hot and ready like a Little Caesar's pizza this season. We're coming out with daily episodes, starting off extremely early. And if you didn't hear in the last episode, now the Huddle Chat Sports Show is officially not just a podcast, not just a small stream platform at the current moment, but it is also a small business. The Huddle Chat Sports Show is now officially an LLC, so we are going to be making bigger and better and juicier moves every single day over here on the Huddle Chat Sports Show. But without further ado, like I said, we're kicking off all of the 32 teams' NFL drafts. We're moving on the AFC South. We're going to the Houston Texans, the pick or two before the Indianapolis Colts this year. We're going to go ahead and dive into it. But before we do that, as always, now is the time, my friends, that I invite you to smoke them if you got them. Fill up your cup, roll something up, and let's get right into the news. A lot of people are saying that the Houston Texans won the draft by the third pick in the draft, and it's easy to see how somebody could come and whittle it down to that conclusion. Because when you look at the Houston Texans draft, they had the number 2 pick in the draft, and they took their potential quarterback of the future in C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud, I do believe, has potentially the most pressure on him of all first-round quarterbacks that were drafted this year. He was well regarded, even though people look at him as the second best quarterback in this draft class compared to Bryce Young's quarterback ability. C.J. Stroud was well regarded as the most well-rounded quarterback in this draft class when you're looking at the top 3-4 quarterbacks in this draft class. Bryce Young had the quarterback ability you wanted C.J. Stroud to have, but C.J. Stroud had the size that you wanted Bryce Young to have. He had the experience that you wanted Anthony Richardson to have. So he was kind of well regarded as the safest quarterback pick that you could take with the Houston Texans. Taking him with the number 2 pick, I don't hate the pick. It's a very safe pick. I do think that C.J. Stroud is going to come in, be a day 1 starter, and instantly turn the Texans around from what they were last year, being led by the likes of Davis Mills and other quarterbacks. The problem with the Houston Texans is they have a lot of holes to fill, but the great news is to you Houston Texans fans out there is the Texans made some moves, bro. Not only did they take C.J. Stroud with their number 2 pick, they also turned around immediately and took Will Anderson. They took the quarterback of the defense, their potential defensive leader of the future, the pick after taking C.J. Stroud. The problem that I have with that is what they did give up to get Will Anderson. But at the end of the day, you're looking at a team who really is in full rebuild mode. You take their draft that they had last year. They have a lot of good young prospects out of the draft last year, and they're turning around and doing the same thing. They don't want to be in this rebuild process for a very long time. Now, Going in to Will Anderson's pick, he was well regarded as the best edge rusher in this class. I heard a lot of comparisons to the Denver Broncos' old Von Miller, but I didn't really like that as much. I think he's more of a Khalil Mack type player. He really does need to work on his explosivity, his speed from the edge rushing position, but he is a dominant force out there on the edge. He did get moved into the interior last season. He wasn't as productive in 2022 as he was in 2021 due to that move to the interior. He didn't play quite as well in the interior. But when you have him back out there on the edge as a true edge rusher like he really likes to play, Will Anderson is definitely going to set the Houston Texans defense up correctly. He's really going to be the start of a great foundation for that Houston Texans defense. Before we move on into more draft picks for the Houston Texans, I want to give a big shout out to our sponsor for this episode, Dank Life Clothing. Dank Life brand was our sponsor last season, if you don't remember, and they are a fantastic company. You see my shirt here. They've already started sending us customized Huddle Chat Sports Show merchandise. We will have a Huddle Chat Sports Show store opening here soon, powered by Dank Life Clothing. Dank Life was kind enough to send us a few extra things that we can give away here on the Huddle Chat Sports Show. We're going to be starting out with our Tampa Bay Rays. Since it's baseball season, our nice Tampa Bay Rays customized tumbler. It keeps your drinks hot. It keeps them cold, whatever you need. It's perfect for your coffee in the morning. It's perfect if you're trying to take a frozen margarita to the pool and not alert the lifeguard. So you're going to go ahead and take one of these. What we're going to be doing is once we hit 100 subscribers here on the Huddle Chat Sports Show, we have a Tampa Bay Rays one. We have a couple for the NFL. We're going to have some clothing to give away as well. So once we get to 100 subscribers here on the Huddle Chat Sports Show, we are going to be doing massive giveaways here. And get the word out about this show, about this program, about this network. The Huddle Chat Sports Show cannot grow without amazing people like yourself watching it. So if you've made it this far, haven't dropped a like, please make sure you drop a like down on the video, hit that subscriptions button and the notification bell. So we're going to go ahead and move right back on into the draft picks for the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans really needed something on the offensive line. And what you could really say they added in was some juice. They added some juice to their offensive line. They went ahead and got Juice Scruggs. He plays with great leverage and strength. He has great contact off the ball out of his stance, and he never stops his feet. As we all know as offensive linemen, that footwork is massively important. He's explosive. He's a fantastic run blocker, and he's always looking to move to the second level if he doesn't have a defensive lineman on him. He's not necessarily going to be a day one starter, but can be groomed into a potential anchor for the Houston Texans offensive line. With their next pick in the draft, I think, and a lot of experts think, may have been one of the biggest value picks, one of the biggest steals in this year's draft. Tank Dell is, I think, seriously the biggest steal of the draft. He's an absolutely tough-ass wide receiver, tough as nails. He's explosive out of his breaks. If you get a 50-50 ball up there from C.J. Stroud, he is a 50-50 ball winner. He goes and gets the ball. He high points it. He's got absolutely amazing athleticism. You need to seriously listen to what some of the ex-NFL wide receivers and what NFL experts are saying about Tank Dell. Everybody's extremely hype about the prospect of Tank Dell. And I know as an Indianapolis Colts fan, I'm not looking forward to the future where Tank Dell is going to be a problem that we have to deal with. Moving on, staying in the wide receivers though, they did take Xavier Hutchinson. I mean, he's a great athlete, but he's nothing extremely special at the moment to write home about. He's a developmental draft pick that they took late in the draft. He does lack some top speed, so he doesn't have the speed that you would like from a number one, number two wide receiver. But he does have extremely reliable hands. He's a very sure-handed wide receiver. He does lack the top speed, like I said, and needs to work on some of his route running. He does strike me a very similar player to like what the Chargers have with Joshua Palmer out there in LA. Now, the last pick that we're going to be speaking about with the Houston Texans today is going to be their new linebacker, Henry To'oTo'o. He's potentially their new Brian Cushing. Go ahead and look it up on Google. What I mean by him being Brian Cushing, it's very weird to see the similarities between those two. And he could potentially grow into that defensive captain, that defensive leader at the second level for the Houston Texans. He's the biggest steal of the draft for the Houston Texans, in my opinion. I know I said a lot about Tank Dell, but when you're looking at value in the later rounds of the draft, I do think that their best steal, their hidden gem that nobody saw was Henry To'oTo'o. He's a very instinctive linebacker with great vision. He's an absolute amazing run stopper. He's a wall out there on defense, and he's got high level experience. The only problem with that is he's not quite as polished as you would like to see with somebody with that experience level. He could grow into a significant role as early as this season, but Henry To'oTo'o is definitely going to be a grinder, and he's going to be somebody that you're going to know as a Houston Texans fan. He's going to become a household name over the next 3 seasons. Now, when I look at the Houston Texans, when I'm talking about what grade I'm going to give them for this year's draft, I'm taking last year's draft. I'm adding in their amazing offseason that they've had so far pre-draft, and then taking the draft into account as well. Of course, you have a lot of you have a lot extra added in with the number 2 and 3 pick. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of what they gave up to move up to get Will Anderson, but it's something that the Houston Texans absolutely needed. I'm not saying it was the wrong move, just the wrong price to make that move. They definitely have too many holes to fix them all at one time, but when you take all of the steps that have led us to this moment, you're looking at that Houston Texans rebuild and saying it seems to be going kind of the direction that they'd wanted to go in. So I'm going to give the Houston Texans a B- for this draft. They had a really hot first 5-6 picks of the draft. And of course, what they had to give up cost them late in the draft. But you're not going to be really needing a ton of value and a ton of impact from those later round players that they got. But the ones that I mentioned, I do see having a crazy impact on the Houston Texans roster almost immediately. So for that reason, I'm definitely going to give them a B-. My favorite thing about the Houston Texans draft, if you pay attention, the Houston Texans have lost a lot over the last few years. You're looking at J.J. Watt leaving. He was kind of the face of the franchise for a while there. You look at D-Hop leaving, who was kind of the face of the franchise after J.J. Watt. You look at Deshaun Watson. I mean, every loss they've taken has been a big piece that moves on and becomes a big piece on their next team. So it looks like the Houston Texans may have been able to replace all of those losses with this year's draft. Only time will tell how good this draft actually has been for the Houston Texans, but I really like the prospect and not liking that I'm going to have to see that team 2 times this season. That's going to do it for the Houston Texans episode today. Make sure you check out the Indianapolis Colts episode and the remainder of the AFC South. And we're running through all 32 NFL teams. So if I'm not hitting your division, your team at the current moment, make sure you hit that notifications bell because we will be talking about it very soon. Thank you all so much for your time today. Thank you for checking me out. Make sure you check out the new segment that we're going to be doing. It's going to be a sports book, a gambling segment that we're going to be doing. We're going to be winning y'all some money. So make sure you check that out. Thank y'all so much for tuning into the Huddle Chat Sports Show. And I'm going to get the hell up out of here, man. Y'all have a good one. Much love. Thank you.